Happy Self-Love Sunday, ladies. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that your journeys are going well. So this is 4th of July weekend, and I know for very many of us that means 4-day weekend. So I hope that you are doing something fun. I hope that you're having fun. I hope that you're creating some fun for yourselves because we live such a busy, hectic, inconsistent healing life, which means that things can be heavy for us more often than not. So today, along those lines, I wanted to come and talk to you about trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting your gut around people, places, and things. And what do I mean by that? Very often, and I'm talking to you from the aspect of this is what I've done. We're always looking for a sign, looking for something to tell us whether the person that we're with is right, or the places that we're with is right, or the job. It's like we're always looking for an outside force. And when I'm talking about outside forces, I'm not talking about, God's spirit, universe. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people, right? That validation. I remember, let me give you a prime example. I remember I was going through these series of phases when, like you're dating, and I would go through something and my stomach would be upside down, inside out, because, basically my body's telling me the answer, but I just have to go to my friends, like, and get 1,000 opinions. Like, I just had to get like 1,000,000 opinions. And I want to say there's nothing wrong, because I have a best friend who I love dearly, and we have conversation and we talk, but this is not that. This is when you go to like 5 to 6 different people with the same thing, hoping for maybe a different result than what you really feel in the pit of your stomach, right? Because the truth of the matter is what you felt all along was the true answer. But because you don't trust yourself, and you don't trust your intuition, you don't trust your gut, you go get 1,000 different opinions from everyone else. And this is like really true for these times, right? Especially right now, we're in the mecca of people who have no control or really don't want to deal with the stuff, or heal, is always like to say, heal from the stuff that's going on in their lives. So they are spewing and spitting things all over everywhere. Think about it, right? Who's not wearing a mask? Who should be wearing a mask? Who should be doing this? You can't be going here. You shouldn't be doing that. And so right now I see people are in this frenzy or frantic of, what should I do? How should I move? Where should I go? And they're going to all these outside sources instead of trusting themselves. Listen, my gut has saved me more times, more often than not. And I'm talking about, I've been in some serious situations where something said to me, it's time to leave. And I've left the situation, and there's something that's taken place afterwards, right? And then you be like, oh my God, I dodged that bullet. You have to learn to trust that. You have to trust that, not just that self-awareness to leave a place, right? Because there may be some danger in that. Trusting yourself in any situation. There's times when I would go around certain people and my stomach would bother me, or I would have a headache, and I'm like, man, that's not even me. And I didn't even realize it was because it was my body way of telling me, this is not it. Even being around old friends, right? It'd be like, I would feel like kind of like really off. Like I could step into a room and it's almost as if something is truly off. And I still would kind of like just go with it. But on the inside, I would feel like this crazy emptiness and this kind of like weird feeling. And it was like I didn't trust my gut. And so what happens, and this is what happens with a lot of us. So when I always like to remind you guys when I'm talking to you, most times I'm talking probably even about me or something that I've been through. So I'm right here with you in this, right? So it would be to the point where for me, because I didn't trust how I was feeling or what I felt, the universe literally would have to make it so bad that I had no other choice but to listen and be like, okay, all right, I get it now. I need to leave this situation, or these people are really not for me anymore, or this place is not for me anymore, or I've outgrown this job. So I want to talk about it in terms of even teaching fitness, right? I did it for 10 years. I thought this was my purpose. And it was like, I was great at it. I don't listen, there's no ifs, ands, or buts around that, right? Like I loved it, but it got to a point where it became so hard. And I'm like, what's wrong? And I just kept going to everybody else, asking different opinions. And I never forget that I sat down with somebody who I really just respected, was in the business as well. And she just was like, it's time. It's time to walk away. Like, you know this. And I was like, yes, I do know this. But I was so busy, like, thinking about everyone else, right? All those people. Let me tell you something. I've met the best people in my life teaching fitness, and I love them. And I felt like I would be letting them down, right? So again, everything in my thought pattern was nothing of me. I felt like I was going to let them down. I felt like it was my purpose. I was going to let God down. I felt like, maybe there's just something wrong with me, not trusting how I was feeling or what my body was even feeling going through that. I had never felt that before, right? So it was like all the signs were there for me, but I just couldn't trust me. And let me tell you something about not trusting yourself. When you don't trust yourself, you tend to make the worst decisions. It's the truth. Why? Because you're making decisions based upon what everybody else is telling you versus what you know. That is a game changer. And here's the thing. That's not to say like I've made some decisions that didn't kind of work out the way I wanted to, but that's also real talk because I didn't listen to myself. So usually before I make a big decision, I love to meditate and go within and really have a conversation with my higher spirit and power. I cannot express to you enough the importance of having that relationship. Some people don't like to meditate, but I'm telling you, some of the best things that have happened in my life has come at a time when I've been able to sit back, meditate on it, think about it, really have that conversation with higher spirit and really kind of listen to what I'm being told as opposed to just doing what my little crazy butt wants to do. Right? So when I've done that, I've tended to got the best answers, and I've always been able to walk in the right direction when I have done that. But when I'm not trusting myself, when I'm just making impulsive decisions, of course I make mistakes. Now within that, I have to give myself some grace because I'm human. I'm going to make those mistakes. I'm going to learn. I'm going to tell you something. The biggest apology, and I will say it again, is change behavior, not lip service. The biggest apology is change behavior, not lip service. Okay? So I learn from it, and then I adjust my behavior accordingly. Right? Because I'm going to make mistakes. And some of those mistakes are truly growth for me. I don't ever really look at it like something I'm a failure. I used to, not anymore. I'm a failure or I'm this or I'm that. I look like, okay, this is something obviously that I need to learn. I'm going to learn this lesson now. I take on learning lessons like with a vengeance. Like, I'm going to learn this lesson. Maybe I need to take a time out. Maybe it's a book that I need to read. Maybe it's time for me to tap in, to connect with another coach and or therapist, right? If it's deep, I think that's important. I think the importance of having a coach to help us get past that stuck place. That's what I'm here for. I've learned to do that with myself a million times over. And then when it's bigger than me, I learn to step out and grab somebody else. I want to explain to everybody, every doctor has a doctor. Remember that. So when I speak on it, that's normal. Hello. So with that being said, it's about really trusting your gut and trusting your body. And if you don't have the answer right away, don't make an impulsive decision. Sit back, meditate on it. And I'm going to say this, right? How do you know? Because people are like, well, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know when to trust yourself? I'm going to say this first. The biggest red flag is the absence of God's peace. How do you know you should walk away from people, places, and things and take a step back and get into you? I want you to hear what I'm saying. I'm not saying walk away, let go, leave. That's going to happen if that happens. But usually when it's like that, you need to take a step back. So what I like to do is I'll take a step back and I'll get into myself. I'll let the people know or the person know, like, hey, listen, I need to take a minute. Now, some people don't take kindly to that. Some people will be like, well, what do you mean? Or they don't like that you need to take a step back for you to internalize it and make it personal. And then they may walk away from your life. That may happen. You have to let that go. That is whatever, if you want to call it a consequence to your healing, then it is what it is. But it really just means that they're not going with you on that next level. It doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you're going somewhere that they're not going to go, and they're going somewhere that you're not going to go. We have to stop looking at all the stuff as negative and like going off on people, because people get off on this narcissistic BS at this point. And yes, I don't like labels, but I'm going to say it. It's like, cutting people off and I'm going to unfriend and befriend. Listen, at the end of the day, that's not a bad thing. It's a positive thing. It's because sometimes when you let go, you grow in an area and they grow in an area, and that's all okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to get away from this punishment thing that's happening right now. It's happening more often than not. It's like, I saw this quote and I thought it was beautiful. We can't say that we're free, but we're not going to be free to make mistakes or allow people to make mistakes. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying that you have to let anybody back in your life. That's not it. That's not what it's about. It's just the fact that we have to understand that, mistakes are going to happen. You have to allow people a chance to correct them, grow from them, heal from them. Doesn't mean, again, that they're in your life, but you have to allow that, right? Okay. So it's really, truly comes down to really trusting you, understanding that the biggest red flag is the absence of God's peace and whatever you call your God, your higher power, right? If it's not bringing you peace, if it's not bringing you joy, it's not bringing you love, majority of the time, something's off. You need to take a step back. You need to get into you. You need to kind of like understand like what's going on with inside of you. Trust yourself a little bit, okay? Take a step back. I do it all the time. I need a minute. I need to get with myself. I need to go within, right? And then I find that I make the best decisions for my life based upon that. Okay? So let's start trusting ourselves. Let's start trusting our guts and our heads and our body pains and aches when we walk into a place. Let's start trusting the hairs on the back of our neck when it just doesn't feel right. It may be time for you to step back. It may be time for you to get into you and reevaluate some things. Take some time for yourself. Read a book. Reach out to a life coach. If it's deep, reach out to a therapist. Go for a walk. Exercise. Whatever it is that you need to do to get with yourself, you do that. But you got to start trusting you. You have to start living in a little bit more of this faith over fear. There's so much fear going on because you're listening to everybody else. Turn that shit off. Turn those people off. Get into you. Stop letting that stuff control you, because that's all it is. Get into you. Trust yourself. You got this. You're smart. Listen, you've been through some things, especially if you're around my age group. If you're in your late 40s, you've been through some things. You've lived a few lives. Okay? Start trusting you. If you make a mistake, allow yourself some grace. Understand that you're human and that's going to happen. Then forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Learn. Okay? Let's not walk into this, I was right, they was wrong. Let me tell you something. It takes two to tango, and everybody can learn something from that lesson. Whether it's you need to have boundaries, whether you need to trust yourself a little bit more, whether it's just not to put yourself in certain places anymore that you knew you were uncomfortable with from the beginning, right? All of that's okay. It's okay. You're going to learn. All right? I love you for listening today. Trust yourself. You got this. Stay on this healing journey. Have fun when you can. I'm getting ready to go take my goddaughter to the beach. Yes, I'm going. I don't listen to people controlling me. I know how to prepare myself and be precautious. I trust myself and still be able to go out and have a great time. And I hope that you do the same. If you need to reach out to me for anything, it's moesassfitness@gmail.com. Moe Sass Fitness LLC on Facebook and Instagram. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful rest of the day.